Chapter 00 of the Life and Adventures of James P. Beckwourth. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Gary Olman. The Life and Adventures of James P. Beckwourth by Thomas D. Bonner. Chapter 00. Preface to the New English Edition. Although there have been for more than 30 years a vast manufacture of cheap romances of the scalp hunter and bandits of the plains description, it is still true that works setting forth the frontier life of America by men who have really experienced it are actually rare, and this is especially the case as regards real residents on familiar terms among the Red Indians. This is to be regretted because every student of history will, in another generation, wonder at this indifference as regards a state of society which is, even by us, regarded as intensely interesting. The chief reason for this is that those who were best qualified by experience were in most cases the worst fitted as regards education to observe or record what they had lived through. Young people very generally believe that the mere fact of having seen much of the world or having traveled qualifies anybody to describe well, when, on the contrary, a man who has not keenly cultivated the arts of observation and writing generally acquires nothing of the kind. On the contrary, as we often see in sailors, constant change makes him indifferent to everything save mere personal interests. Like the stork who had traveled every year of his life from Antwerp to Egypt or India, yet could tell of nothing except where the best swamps and pools were, with the fattest frogs and largest worms. So men who have traveled most can, very often, only tell us where are the best restaurants and hotels. James Beckwourth was a man who had really had a very wild and varied life on the frontier, all of which might have remained unknown had he not chanced upon Mr. T. D. Bonner, who, as this work indicates, wrote English in a straightforward manner and knew how to elicit narratives from his subject in a straightforward style. Beckwourth had lived among Indians in the old buffalo days, which means, without exaggeration, that he had perhaps held his life in his hand, on an average about once a day, had really been recognized by the United States government as a man who was capable of influencing and restraining the formidable tribe of Crow Indians, for which badly performed duty he was for a long time paid a high salary, and finally he had, beyond all question, undergone hundreds of adventures as wild and characteristic as any described in this book. I would here protest that so far as I am concerned, the revising and editing this work is by no means a piece of literary hackwork, since it was my intention to write on this man 30 years ago. Through personal channels, I have often heard of him. Mrs. General Ashley, so celebrated for her grace and refinement, of whom Beckwourth speaks so admiringly, was an intimate friend of my mother, and I have often conversed about Beckwourth himself with Mr. Chouteau, but it was to Mr. Robert P. Hunt of St. Louis, who had known Beckwourth well in his wildest life in the plains, that I was chiefly indebted for my knowledge and interest in this strange semi-outlaw, and of him I will speak anon. I am also very much indebted, and hereby return my most cordial thanks, to Horace Klephart, Esquire, librarian of the Mercantile Library of St. Louis, Missouri, for kindly taking the pains to look up for me the two following paragraphs, which supply the principal data of Beckwourth's life not given in Mr. Bonner's book, or which are subsequent to it as to time. James P. Beckwourth was born in Virginia of a Negro slave and mother, and
Sample complete. Ready to continue?